Well, it's never too soon to start saving for retirement. Joining us now is Stephanie Bart from BayPort Financial to talk about how to get started and how to make your money work hard for you. Stephanie, welcome back to the Hampton Roads Show.
Thanks.
Okay, so I guess there's three groups of people. There are those who are just starting out in their work profession, those who are midway through, and those are close to retirement. What are some of the conversations you have with those groups?
Well, all three are concerned about making sure they have enough money to say, obviously to live on once they decide to stop working. And that can be a little scary, but there are a couple of different ways to save for retirement. There are IRAs. There's a couple of different kind of IRAs. I'm not going to go into the details of those today, but know that there's contribution limits. We can't put but so much away. Into an IRA, we can put $5,500 if we're under age 50. $6,500 a year, that is, if we're 50 or older. So there's limitations on how much we can put away. The sooner we get started, obviously, the better.
Do you recommend people max out on what they can contribute?
I do, because we have such a limited time to save. The reason I say limited is because once we stop having earned income, we can no longer contribute to our IRAs. So if you want to retire early, some folks do retire at, say, 55. Well, they've limited how, obviously the length of time they can put money into their IRA. Hope that they saved enough between the time they started working and the time they retired to make sure they can live comfortably.
Now, most people have their employer-sponsored programs, such as a 401k. Now, how important is it to contribute to that?
Very important. And then, I shouldn't say most, a lot of 401ks do have a match. That means the company gives you a portion of what you put in. I strongly encourage participation in those 401ks. There are some companies that do not give you a match, and some folks might say, well, why would I contribute to that? Discipline. If you're not disciplined enough to save on the outside, definitely contribute to your 401k, even if there's not a match, because you're putting something away and it comes right out of your paycheck versus having to think about it and put something into an IRA, for example.
Now, I know it's really important to save as much as possible, but how can you sort of gauge on how much you will need after you retire?
Well, there's some complications, some things we're going to talk about when we're sitting down together and looking at their income and what their expenses will look like inflated to a certain point whenever they decide to retire. There's a lot of factors that go into deciding on what amount's going to be needed, but the important thing is to put as much away as you can. I mentioned there are contribution limits to the IRAs earlier, but 401ks and plans retirement companies also have limitations.
Right.
$17,500 is the most an employee can contribute to their 401k if they're under age 50. If you're over age 50 or over, you can contribute $17,500 is $23,000.
Right.
So you are limited to your 401k as well, how much you can put in. So it's really important, again, to save. If your budget, you don't feel like your budget allows you to do this, really take a closer look at your budget, see where you can cut some things to save for retirement, because once that date comes, you're going to be happy you made some sacrifices in the beginning.
You're talking about sacrifices. You have to sacrifice on both ends of it, though. You have to sacrifice to save before retirement, and then after retirement, you're making sacrifices as well.
You may have to, absolutely.
Right.
If you didn't put enough away, you've got it. After retirement, you may not be able to have the lifestyle that you once had if you have not prepared wisely.
Younger people who are just starting off in life don't realize how important it is to save at the beginning of their career.
It's so important, Chris.
Yeah.
And those are the folks I really want to make sure that hear what I've got to say, because if we get them started so soon, they could really end up with a really nice pool of money if they're smart about it and diligent and save. And when retirement comes, they're happier than they would have been.
Very important to save for tomorrow. For more information, stop by any of the BayPort Credit Union locations across Hampton Roads or log on to bayportcu.org. Stephanie Bart, as always, great advice.
Thanks, Chris.